recently you decided to go all in, buy all the equipment, everything that you need to start shooting
Yeah.
vendor POV videos. And you have two of those up on your channel right now. Tell us about how that went. Why did you decide to, on a whim, go all in and try the vendor POV kind of trend that's happening right now and what's blowing up across kind of the Pokemon space in YouTube?
We'll
Why?
start there and then go into
Yeah,
content and
yeah.
what I'm yeah, so I think like a lot of people right now, the hot thing is this vendor content. I think what's driving it is like genuine curiosity in how people engage with each other. How do I go about an approach like buying something and negotiating? How do I say no and like when I want to sell something? And I think it's just a side of the hobby that everyone knows existed, but having someone record a transaction is like the corniest thing to think about. But it's just done now in a more natural way, like cameras and stuff. I'm talking whatever. I've seen some versions of the vendor POV videos where they like stage. Have you seen this? Like they stage a transaction.
See, I was actually going to ask about that
Oh,
later later on. But but to go back to like why you think it appeals to people. I look at it almost like a Pawn Stars thing. Pawn Stars is huge. Now
really?
that's obviously staged and
Yeah.
fake,
That's obviously fake. Yeah.
but
But
to see the kind of the real version of that and not the staged fake version of it, and to
yeah.
see, normal deals, big deals, random, like you said, random people who you'd never think would drop $500 on slabs all of a sudden dropping $500 on
It,
slabs, like
yeah.
that's interesting stuff to watch and interesting, interactions that you can share with people.
Generally speaking, the content, a content type that does well on YouTube and these content platforms is like how people engage with each other in public. Like there's
Yeah.
different forms of this. Like someone's doing a gesture of goodwill, it's caught on camera, or some guy doesn't pick up his dog poop and they get an alter. Like it's just like two people
Yeah.
engaging with each other, and it hopefully is not staged. So I think there's genuine curiosity around that. And the hobby, you don't really see that unless you go to trade shows. And like even for me, I hadn't been to a card show in like I don't even remember the last time, like 10 years, right? So I've been selling on eBay pretty consistently for the last 2 or 3 years. TCG player started last year. This is a side of the hobby that like I personally have never experienced. And so the
Yeah.
content for me taught me about the engagement, so how to buy, how to sell. It also taught me about what are people willing to pay. The reason why I decided to vend is because I see way more competition now on TCG Player and eBay,
Mm.
and I need some type of way to liquidate some of my stuff and charge a little bit extra for the cards I can get for cheap elsewhere. I think the vendor content it does well. There's just genuine curiosity. There will be a point, and I say this just from my experience in this space. There will be a point of saturation. There will be a point of how to do this content best. But right now, I think we're in the honeymoon phase.
One thing I was thinking is kind of what happened with the trade up challenges. Like when the trade up
Oh,
challenges started, it was interesting because it was like you're flipping up to something in one show and it wasn't annoying 12-year-olds. It was people actually making it a game and making it interesting and making it like naturally. But now if you go on TikTok and see trade up challenges, they're all staged. They're all influencers going to different influencers, trading up
yeah.
ridiculous trade ups that make no sense. And at the end of it, you got like a first edition Charizard in your hand. And it's like, what? Like nobody, I don't know if people care about them anymore. I really have never cared about them, but I think at the beginning, because wasn't it, there was a YouTuber, I think Ryan Trahan, he like started with a penny and then he tried to travel like across the US starting with a penny, and he documented like every day he put out a new vlog on getting across the United States or something like that, starting with a
But why
penny.
did we need to start with a penny?
Or maybe it
Couldn't
was
you
a
just like
paperclip, I've
try?
almost said. But it was this idea of like, can you start with something worth nothing basically and build
Use that
that
as
value
collateral? Yeah.
up to like get a hotel room and to get a bicycle and
Yeah.
to, and that type of content I think was really interesting for a while. But then obviously in the Pokemon space that turned into trade up challenges. It like very quickly I feel like got really popular, and then I guess I don't really know if it's popular anymore because it's not content that I consume, but it seems like I don't see it as much anymore, especially
Yeah.
in a like a natural way.
This stuff runs its course, right? Like
Yeah.
there's a honeymoon phase right now. Eventually, there'll be a upgraded premium phase. Like, what's the best way to make this content? And then it's going to be what's the gold standard, and then everything below the gold standard is just going to be like shunned and like people aren't going to care about. I think there's genuine curiosity around it. For me, again, it's about the access, selling to people, and being able to sell more in the hobby. The reason why I decided to make the content, I think my challenge as I've gotten older, can I try something new and challenge myself?
Yeah.
And like put myself out there. And like spending $800 on filming equipment is probably a little aggressive. And like I had microphone problems the first day, and I was like freaking out, like, dude, this is a waste of time. But then I
Yeah.
just let it rip. Like I didn't care. Like whatever the footage comes out to be, it comes out to be. And so I think it was about, for me, introducing a challenge to myself. I genuinely like the content, so let's see if I can do it. You know, that was really my motivation.
When you were filming at your latest show, did you have any weird moments? Were there people like, why do you have a camera? Were there people like weird about being recorded? Did anyone like, hey, I don't want to be on camera, anything like that? Because I feel like, and I don't know how like Bulbasaur and these other people do it, if they have them like sign a waiver or something, being like, you could show up on a YouTube video, or how they do it. But like at any moment, if someone got pissed enough seeing themselves on a YouTube video, they could take that video down. Like that's their right if you didn't, get their permission or whatever, right? So did you
Yeah.
have any weird moments with people like acting strange about
Can
the
I talk
camera?
about that part real quick though? Like
Yeah,
what you're
yeah, go for it.
mentioning, content, social media, video platforms. The platforms all had the same terms of service. When I worked at Twitch, it's the same thing. They take no liability on the content that's published. The user who uploads it, they are saying that I had the consent of the people in this footage, or I had the consent to use this footage. What happens through that is users obviously don't get the consent of the people they record. But the platforms are not going to take that content down unless the person whose content rights or IP rights or whatever rights are being infringed upon, they go to the platforms and they say, hey, you need to take this down. If anyone in any of these videos that I post or these vendors post and say like, hey, I didn't give you permission to post this conversation, then it'd be a battle of like, well, I actually was recording myself and you were in it. Maybe there's something there to like defend the vendor.
Yeah.
But in most cases, the person will probably, the platforms will probably side with the person that was being recorded.
But you could probably
Anyway,
make a
sorry.
case for security reasons anyway. You could probably say like, I had the camera out for
That was
security.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had
Um,
a piece of paper there that said I was filming. They did not read it. Like,
yeah.
it's not that I think it's right. It's just that's how the game is now. So
Yeah.
anytime that topic comes up, that's how it's going to be probably approached. The most annoying thing for me was people being like in front of the
Oh,
camera. I'm like,
yeah.
please, I'm happy that you don't care you're being recorded, but please, you are destroying this. You know, I
Trying
had
to
this
get in
one
the
guy.
shot.
I had this guy flipping through the binder, and he was just like in the shot the whole time while I was trying to do this deal with someone. I had to cut it because it looked like I was talking to someone who wasn't responding back to me. Like, anyway,
You're just talking to a dude who's ignoring you, looking through the
yeah,
binder.
I think recording, you just gotta treat it like, hey, I'm recording. If you don't want to be on it, just want to let you know. Just be courteous. But most people honestly don't care. I actually had a couple people on Instagram reach out and be like, "Oh my god, I didn't think I would make the footage." I'm like, "Thank God," because I thought you were gonna send me a message saying you're pissed that you're in the footage.
Yeah, take it down. Oh
So
man, yeah.
yeah,
It's funny when I went to Japan, not the last time, but the time before, where I took a bunch of content and stuff. It's funny how different people react to this, like
I mean
having your phone
Japan.
out
Yeah,
on a thing versus a camera like on your shoulder. Camera on your shoulder, no one even thinks about. Like
probably
you
don't even see
holding
it.
it out like this, everyone's looking at you and hating you.
I can't imagine going to a card store and filming. Based on my previous experiences, I would be so uncomfortable even asking
I only got thrown out of one place,
for
so
recording.
for recording, yeah.
Yeah.
It's because I had the phone out, on a stick and I was live. I was showing people around like a card store, and I didn't see the sign. There was a sign in the front that said no
No recording.
recording, and I took
Yeah.
like one step in, and this guy came over and was like, no, 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 no. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry.
You go like this.
Yeah, yeah. He's like, no
Yeah.
recording. It's like, all right, I'm out. And then the last question I had, we kind of talked about it already, but what do you, if you want to just reiterate, what do you think the natural evolution of this vendor POV stuff's going to be? Do you think that it's going to be a style of content that's going to be around for a while, or do you think it's kind of like a flash in the pan type thing?
There will be a point of quality standard that's going to be decided by the community. Who knows how long it's going to take? Probably a while, because vendor POV content, like I'm not making another one for like 2 months, 2.5 months.
Do you think that quality
So
standard will include things becoming less authentic?
someone's gonna do that, and it's gonna be weird, man. Like someone's bound to do that regardless. I don't think the quality standard is gonna be that. I think it's gonna be more cuts and edits and more editing. Bulbasaur does a really good job of this. Like they do screenshot of of a card, high res. I like kind of did a half-ass version where I just like snipped a photo and just threw it on there. I think that's gonna happen more. Subtitles, cameras for both people that are facing, like you can see what they're seeing or see their faces. Like
Yeah.
that'll be the evolution of what makes for better content. But I think like at the end of the day, as long as there's quality engagements between the buyer and the seller, I think you can probably get by not having highly produced POV content. It's not just the vendor POV content. It's like, who did you sell to? What did you sell? How did you negotiate? Did you meet like a total butthead person who like was really aggressive? Did you meet someone? There's a guy I watch. His name's Parkman. Have you heard of this guy?
Mm-mm.
Great vendor POV guy. I believe it was him. He got into like this 10 or 15-minute conversation with his dad who is buying a town on no map Umbreon PSA 10 for his son. And then it turns out his dad is like a high school teacher. And the comments are like, everyone's like, yo, that's my teacher. Oh my God. And like, it's just a real genuine
Yeah.
interaction. His dad buying this $1,100 card for his son and negotiating and like asking questions, like, and the content quality was superb because of the engagement. The production quality, like if you ask someone who doesn't understand our content, they would say this production quality sucks because we're just doing like 1080p videos and like not
Yeah.
zooming in on faces.
I think the
Yeah,
authenticness though, even if it's a
yeah.
little rough, is gonna appeal to people. Like it's a whole like Tyler One still using a headset mic sort of thing. Like that sort of mentality is there where like people want the authenticity and people can sniff when something is like not right, you know?
Yeah, that's going to be the most important.
Do you find yourself interacting differently with people because you know you're on camera? Is there a different, like, are you trying to be a bit showman because you know that it's going to be in a video? Or were you just like, no, I'm just going to do the same thing. It's going to be recorded. You know, I have full control of the footage, you know, all that stuff. And it didn't change much. What do you think about that?
No, the answer is no. I think part of it's like I'm used to being filmed or interviewed, or you're doing an interview, or you're presenting to a company just from like professional experience. And
Mm.
so for me, I don't want to say it's natural, but like it doesn't bother me that I'm recorded. Obviously, like I'm not gonna include when I pick my nose and like scratch my butt and stuff like that.
Right,
Like
right, yeah.
I'm just be a normal human being. I also think like when you start selling, like you don't have time to think about this stuff. You're just trying to sell.
Yeah, you're
Like
like fully in the moment at that
you're
point. Yeah.
full moment and trying to get people to buy, negotiate. Like I don't have time to be like, hey, can you just like re-say that real quick? And I'll like, dude, you don't.
Not sure if the mic picked
Yeah,
that one up. Can you say that again?
can you say that again? And offer me like five. Like
Yeah.
you don't really have the time to do that. And
Yeah.
I think the people who do end up approaching like that, they're gonna burn themselves out because it's just not a genuine experience for the user and then for the viewer and then even for
Yeah.
them.
If you guys enjoyed this style of video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button down below. Make sure to also subscribe to @EarnCollects on YouTube. It was a great conversation we had together about a multitude of different topics, and there will be a couple more videos from that conversation coming out here soon. But if you want to see the full unedited chat that we had, you can become a member today for just $1.99 a month.